There is absolutely no doubt in the fact that Kantara is a cinematic achievement. We have experienced the monstrosity of this film in the cinemas and now it can be watched on Amazon Prime. But I'm sure you must be questioning the reason behind this video. After so many people have posted their reviews, analysis and interviews, do we really require one more video on this film? Well, I want to say that while we all love to take a gander at the big picture, we often tend to overlook those small moments of wonder whose culmination is what ultimately gives the overall cinematic experience. Now, when it comes to Kantara, I am not saying that we have not appreciated the film by taking into account factors like cinematography, background score, acting, editing and script. But there is one aspect of the film that I believe needs to be acknowledged way more than anything else. This video will explain the treatment of Kantara from the filmmaking perspective by highlighting some great creative decisions taken by the filmmakers. I will be covering a lot of creative choices that we observe under the overarching premise of sound design, especially the use of leitmotif to depict the journey of inner transformation of the characters. A leitmotif is a recurring musical phrase that is associated with a person, place or idea. And Kantara is an amazing example of how to effectively use leitmotif and create a symphony to narrate the legend. Now, I am not sure if you are aware of this, but Ajaneesh Loknath, the music director of Kantara, and Rajakrishnan, the National Award-winning sound designer, worked closely with Rishabh Shetty by visiting the locations of Dakshin Karnataka and collaborating with the native folk artists of the region to sample and design the musical atmosphere of the film. And since we are going to explore the music in as much detail as possible, we need to acquaint ourselves with some instruments that have been used significantly to emanate and elevate the musical aura in the film. These instruments are Morsing, which is a Karnataka percussion instrument, Koragadolu, which originates from Dakshin Karnataka, Tase, which is another percussion instrument, Didgeridoo, which belongs to the Aboriginal tribes of Australia, and finally we have the Damru and Gaggara, which is offered to the Daiva Nartak during the Kola. These instruments come together to present the different leitmotifs of the characters and define the themes and pacing of the film. Let's take a deep dive and try to understand how the sound design of Kantara is, in my humble opinion, the biggest reason behind making it a cinematic achievement. Let us first start with the prologue when we listen to the story of the king who ends up heading into the forest to look for a source of strength that will guide him like a wise uncle and unconditionally love him like a mother.
ಗಗ್ಗರದ ಶಬ್ದವೊಂದು ಕೇಳ್ತದೆ. ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ ರಾಜ ಒಮ್ಮೆಲೆ ನಿಂತು ನೋಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಆದರೆ ರಾಜನಿಗೆ ಆ ಶಬ್ದ ಕೇಳಿ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ.
This is the first time when the sound of the Gaggara is introduced in the film as a diegetic sound. The sound of the Gaggara is then elevated with another instrument when the king bows down in front of Panjurli Daiva.
ಅಮ್ಮ ತಬ್ಬಿಕೊಂಡ ಹಾಗೆ, ಮಾವ ತಲೆ ಸವರಿದ ಹಾಗೆ. ಆಗ
Now, as soon as the king opens his eyes and looks back toward the villagers, we hear another diegetic sound. He can ask for anything but not their demigod Panjurli. Then Panjurli Daiva makes an appearance in front of everyone and an elevated pitch of the Gaggara accompanied by a new repeating given by the king to the villagers in exchange for Panjurli Daiva bestowing happiness, peace and prosperity. Also, the tempo of the background score at this moment sets up the pacing for not just this scene but also for the upcoming scenes. Next, we have this scene of the Bhutakola where Shiva's father performs the folk dance. I won't be able to dive too much into the details of the song to avoid copyright, but I'll just say that if you go back and listen to the background score during this scene when he prepares to perform in the Kola, we continue to hear the tune of the Morsing. And there is one more thing that takes place in this scene about which I will talk later in this video, but right now, I'll say that there is this moment which is my favorite in terms of blending electric guitar with Carnatic classical music. That is when the son of the landlord challenges the demigod. The demigod looks at the fire torch on the right side and turns back to the sound of the electric guitar. These tiny wonders of creativity are what I am talking about. These decisions look puny, but they actually are capable of pouncing your chest. Now let's move ahead and go to this scene when the prologue is over and we gear up to witness the sporting tradition of the Kambada. To introduce the sport and the ambience of this scene, we now listen to the bass-filled tunes of the Koragadolu, Tase, flute, and various Foley sounds of the swings, the frying jalebis, the chicken fight, and a lot more. This harmonized music also acts as a precursor for the character introduction of Shiva to commence the Kambada. This background score is silenced for a few seconds during this conversation, and then from here onwards, we hear the music picking up again with the Koragadolu. And then we get a new mix of various instruments, including the morsing and the didgeridoo, so that we can witness the roaring character introduction of Shiva. Now, while he cleans himself and gets back to enjoying the festival, we start hearing a new background score that specifically includes a sound that resembles a lot with the Gagra. Listen to this. And you will notice how this sound in the background score is playing while he drinks the local booze, bets on the cockfights, takes a drag of the chillum, basically everything that gives an idea of how Shiva is nothing like his father and his brother. He likes to drown himself in the pool of recklessness and ignorance. This is exactly what the background score is conveying with a modern bass-filled track overpowering the sound of the Gaggara, which symbolizes Shiva's true destiny that is currently being forgotten by the protagonist. It is time to declare the results of the Kambada, and now the music once again fades out only to change the moods of the scene. Now it's time to witness the anger of Shiva after he learns that he did not win the race. He starts fighting with the character of Sudhakar, and just when he is kicked into the pool of mud by Shiva, the background score switches back to the one that we heard during the introduction of the festival. This reflects how Shiva is the true champion of the Kambada and the trophy of the festival belongs only to him. This action scene comprises two different background scores. The second one starts when Shiva lifts himself after taking a hit. And once again, his anger and willingness to claim what rightfully belongs to him is solidified with the background score. Therefore, this becomes Shiva's leitmotif. Yes, I remember that leitmotif is a recurring musical phase. Don't worry, as it will repeat itself. But now, let us shift our attention to a new character who represents the second force in the conflict of man versus nature. For his introduction, we have a different background score which gets repeated twice in this scene at the police station, where we also learn about his motivation. So yes, this is the leitmotif of the character of Murli, a police officer who has been assigned to protect the wildlife of Kadabetu and also remove the villagers from the land, which will now become a reserved forest. In this scene, when he is challenged by Shiva for the first time, the entire tune of his leitmotif suddenly loses its pitch and tempo. Listen to this. Till now, we have seen Shiva not being aware of his destiny and the responsibility that rests on his shoulders. But before it is too late, he starts getting a signal from the divine force of Panjurli Daiva. A vision of what the future holds enters his life with the high-pitched sound of the Gaggara. In this scene at the festival, we did hear a similar sound, but it got overpowered by his ignorance. This time, the reminder becomes strong enough for Shiva to be remembered for good. For the audience, the leitmotif of Murli gives a strong reminder about his plan to take down the villagers without caring for how powerful the landlord is. We will hear it back to back in these two scenes. I know some of you might have thought that this music is getting repetitive, but there is a reason behind this repetition. As I said, it is being done to be remembered for good. Now let us jump straight to this scene, which is the third time when Shiva and Murli will face each other. The conversation between them has heated enough to become a conflict. Shiva has another nightmare that also gave a flashback of the time when he was searching for his father. And yes, the flashback was topped up with the same elevated background music that was first heard during the bird's eye view of the Holy Spirit. Also, Shiva has met Leela once again, and the seed of their love has started sprouting. Now this scene takes place in the village where Murli arrives with his cavalry to demarcate the boundaries of the village. With the help of this small single take, we learn about Murli's agenda for coming to the village, which is obviously not supported by the villagers. The situation gets tense and Shiva is called for help. Remember this vocalized tune? While Shiva is charging like a bull to help the villagers, we hear a slowed down version of the same vocalized tune that we heard for the first time previously, and the way he yells at the moment is very similar to his ferocious attack while fighting with the goons at the Kamda. Once again, a hint of his intolerance for injustice. But wait, something very interesting happens that will last for hardly a second. Listen to this. Did you get that? I don't want to end up unintentionally disrespecting the Holy Spirit, but if you can connect the dots, this sound was added in a non-diegetic manner because the audience knows Shiva's destiny and now he's finally moving towards that path laid by the gods. He's now taking the responsibility to fight against injustice and fulfill the eternal promise of bestowing peace. Later, the score changes to the same track. Murli has had it enough. He takes out his gun and shoots in the air. The background score stops, and then the didgeridoo kicks in with some beats in the reverse order. As in this time, the didgeridoo plays before the beats compared to this moment of tussle between Shiva and Murli, where the beats started before the didgeridoo. Do you see what's happening? This juxtaposition of both tunes conveys how Shiva overpowered Murli and vice versa happened for this scene. Here it was Murli surrounded by Shiva and his supporters, and in this scene it is going to be Shiva surrounded by Murli and his cavalry of policemen. And yes, we need to remember this track because we will hear it again soon. But now let's move ahead to this scene when Shiva is once again going to receive another reminder from the Holy Spirit. The diegetic sound of the Gaggara accompanied by the footsteps of Panjurli Daiva is heard in this scene. Then you know what happens. Whoa! Moving on to the midpoint when Shiva and his gang accidentally kill Murli, we once again hear the same sound of the didgeridoo with the beats. Earlier it was Shiva, and now it is Murli. After the interval, I will move straight to this scene when Devendra Suttur is all set to reclaim his throne by removing the villagers from their homes. I just want to quickly appreciate another small moment of creativity by the makers of this film. Just like Garuda Gamana, the shoes are once again used as a motif in Kantara as well. This time the shoes depict the monarchy of Devendra Suttur, and the blood of Guruva spilling on his shoes is a great metaphor for his lust for power. These shoes also explain his transformation from a mentor to a fraud character and ultimately to the gatekeeper. Because the main antagonist of this film is the lust for power and the age-old tyranny of the landlords. Shiva is out of prison. He learns about the truth of Guruva's death and also undergoes an inner transformation that perfectly serves his character trope of the chosen one, the child who will become the protector based on a prophecy. He has now experienced the transformation from being reckless to responsible, being ignorant to informed, and being a goon to a guardian angel of Kadabetu. There are very few portions of the film that include pure modern trance music, which seems to be getting associated with Shiva. This is the one and only scene where we get to experience the most contemporary characterization of Shiva with the help of the trance music. In fact, the entire background score has been designed with a mixture of contemporary punk rock and traditional folk tunes of Dakshin Karnataka. Coming back to realizing his true purpose in life, he brings together the residents of Kadabetu to fight against the tyranny of the landlord. The action scene that follows after this moment once again includes the same music that was used for this scene when Shiva was fighting to save Kadabetu. That time, Murli was the reason behind the chaos, but this time Murli is the one who has vouched to help in bringing back the state of order from chaos. And to corroborate his assertive nature to help the villagers, we witness a great mix of two different leitmotifs. Listen to this. This is my second favorite part of the background score. Another small moment of wonder that forced me to applaud the team behind Kantara. Now we all know what happens in the end. We all absolutely love the climax. It is bone-chilling to say the least and a fine example of mesmerizing acting performance. But we are not done yet because now Shiva has to assume the responsibility bestowed by the divine, honor the sacrifice of his brother, and also reunite with his father in the most beautiful way. The use of fire in this film symbolizes the light that illuminates the vision of the future. That's why when Shiva's father, who is performing the kola, is possessed by the Holy Spirit of the deity and looks at the fire torch, he grabs it before running in towards the forest. In this scene, Shiva holds the same fire torch when he is followed by the spirit of Panjurli. And in the final scene, when Shiva himself performs the kola, he meets the spirit of his father in the forest while holding the same fire torch, because now he is on the right path, which was his destiny. The same destiny from which he ran away as a child, but later moved towards it with a feeling of acceptance. And because of these reasons, I strongly feel that Kantara is a pure cinematic achievement.